Hi friends, welcome. This is a very special video slash podcast, and the reason why is because I want to reintroduce the photo walk. I used to share these with you guys quite frequently on this channel. My format has changed quite a bit since then, but I want to maintain said format and reintroduce the photo walk. I took a trip into a canyon nearby to Snowbird Resort, where people do winter sports related activities. I took my phone with me, and only my phone. This was an iPhone photo walk. I filmed videos and shot photos with only this device, the 3 cameras on it. And while I was out, I was reminded of a couple of things. One, that this is a content creation monster machine, that anywhere I have a cell phone connection, I can shoot, edit, and share from this device. That was amazing. And also, I was liberated. I felt very free having only this to use as my tool for taking photos. There was a playfulness that was ignited within me. I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do more of these as well. But this one, okay. The story of this photo walk begins before I ever leave my apartment. You see, I was going to go out in the evening for this photo walk, but when I was walking my dog, I noticed that there was a blanket of wonderful clouds hanging out around the mountains, and wonderful light to accompany those wonderful clouds. Made an Instagram story about that, and then wrestled a little bit, and then decided I'm going to go out on the photo walk now. As I was making my way towards the canyon, I was more and more reassured that this was going to be a good idea. What I'll do as I'm going up to a ski resort is I will often stop on the side of the road at different places if serendipity arises. In this case, serendipity did arise, and I noticed that there were some clouds cloaking some rocks that climbers would frequently climb. I decided to pull off. This was a very familiar location to me. I've taken photos of climbers here before. I made my way into a small forest that opens up into a rocky landscape, and you get a nice view of the front half of the canyon. The first photo I made was not of those rocks. I actually spun around and took a photo of the other side of the canyon. We had a tube of clouds floating up into the canyon at quite a high rate of speed for cloud speed. We had some mountain formations behind those clouds. The mountain feels quite huge because of these clouds, considering clouds tend to be high in the sky. In this case, they're in front of the mountains. Good way to make your brain go, oh, that's a large mountain. I've learned that it's a good idea when taking photos of mountains to find a more intriguing part of the mountain and build the composition around that. It tends to make for a more compelling photo. I also appreciate the minimalistic color palette that I was able to achieve with this photo, with it just being white, black, and gray. The next photo I made was of those rock cliffs, and I noticed something almost immediately. That with this iPhone in particular, I was going to have a hard time taking a photo of just the cliffs with the fog and make that into something that was compelling. Even though it was compelling to me when I was there, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into the photo. So I decided to work in some other elements of the scene, add more context, add more depth, add more interest. And so I worked in some of the rocky landscape underneath the cliffs and some of the vegetation there. And I think it made the photo much more intriguing. And I really like the colors and the sense of depth I was able to achieve here. And I think the lighting situation allowed for this depth that I'm so pleased with here. And not only in this photo, but in other photos that I take, including the next one. In this next one, I'm pointing towards the mouth of the canyon. We have, on the bottom right-hand corner, a roadway that just pokes out from behind some trees and then goes behind some other trees. I took quite a few shots to get a car in the right position, or a set of cars. In this case, we have only one car. I decided what would make this photo more interesting is if I worked in the other side of the canyon more so, and I tucked the road into the bottom right-hand corner, because there was a lot of intriguing things happening on the other side of the canyon. We have a bunch of clouds over the top of the mountains, so you can't see the top, which makes the mountains feel huge. And then we have below that this beautiful greenish forest surrounded by other brownish trees and a couple houses down there. It's hard to create good definition between trees, good separation, and I really think the lighting situation and the editing helped create that here, which I'm very happy with. That can be hard to do sometimes. If you ever tried to take a photo in a forest, it's not the easiest thing to do. I really love how this photo turned out. I hopped in my motorized vehicle device, made my way up the canyon, and as I was driving, the conditions were getting more and more awesome. I was excited about this. I parked my car at Snowbird, and I noticed that a potentially compelling shot would be to have somebody walking through the parking lot with their skis. And it did not take me long to capture said photo. Here we have a man in mid-stride, very important to me. Side profile view, he's carrying skis. Behind him, we have some trees which are a similar tone to him, but they're not clashing with him due to the fact that the trees are quite foggy. I'm happy about this. If it was a sunny day, I may have had some trouble. Above him and above those trees, we have a lot of negative space, a lot of whiteness. There's nothing there, which introduces an atmospheric quality to the scene that I felt when I was there. I then made my way down to the slopes, and I immediately noticed two things. One, there's an event going on. Fantastic. Events mean people. Hurrah. Two, I did not bring my boots. I'm only wearing Vans. This is problematic. I learned if you live in Utah and you're going outdoors, you should always have a pair of boots handy. Just leave them in your car. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. There's going to be snow. Just believe. So I made my way to a vantage point where I would not be in the way of the skiers, but I could also grab interesting photos. I grabbed one shot of a ski lift that runs from the right-hand side of the frame to the left-hand side of the frame into some fog in the distance going up the mountain. We have some trees in the background. We have a group of people sitting on one of the chairs on the right side of the frame closest to us, which was important to make it more interesting for me. I also grabbed another one, which I'm very happy with, of a skier whizzing by. He's in the bottom right-hand corner of the shot. We have some trees behind him. The trees are pointing straight up. He is going down a slope, which is quite slanted. So I'm using the trees to orient us to what is up and down, because trees always point up. And the skier is going down a dramatic slope, going quite fast. It adds a lot of energy to the scene. And it's also important to me, as always, that I pay attention to my edges when I'm shooting and when I'm cropping. And in this case, of course, I did that. Back to that event I mentioned, by the time I put myself in a position to try to take some photos of the event happening, it was already ending, so I didn't get anything decent there. But there were people wearing tight suits and helmets and these big bars that run around the front of their faces. I assume that if they hit a tree, I think historically speaking, teeth and trees do not make friends. So then I made my way up to a porch, balcony, common area type situation and grabbed a shot of a ski lift. And I'm very pleased with this photo, and I appreciate how it is layered and separated into distinct chunks. On the bottom, we have the blue ski lift building, very Antarctic looking. We have a leading line of the ski lift itself shooting up the mountain directly in the middle. The blue building has a nice anchoring effect, just like a weighty thing to sit on the bottom of the frame to balance the photo. I also wanted to have a couple of chairs where there were people in them and they were separated from other things around them so that they weren't clashing with poles or other chairs. There's one chair, for example, that is clashing with one of the poles with people in it. But that's okay because there are other ones that are not. That was an important thing for me for this photo. Then I noticed that there was an aesthetically pleasing stairway that I could possibly grab an aesthetically pleasing photo from. So I tucked myself in the corner and waited for somebody to walk down the stairs. And I came out with a photo that was... So when it comes to this photo, there's a lot of things I like about it. I like the dramatic angle. I like the trees in the background. I like the stairway as a place for possibility. I like the person and the skis, but the light and everything wasn't quite aligning here in a way that made this all come together right. The person with his skis here is incredibly dark. Now, it does help that he is wearing yellow. That's fantastic. But still not enough separation to make the hierarchy of this photo come into harmony. I then made my way over to the other side of the stairway, noticed oh, there's a huge, wonderful mountain that I can use it as a background element. Let me wait for some more people. And I got another photo that was, Once again, this spot has a lot of potential, and I need to go back when the light is right, but the light was wrong here. I do appreciate the expressions on their faces, very happy. Their bodies are in good positions. I did well with that, but once again, the hierarchy is not right. The mountain, fantastic, though. I'm excited to come back. And then I took this photo directly before the previous photo. I just think the expression on her face is fantastic. Her mouth is wide open. She looks like she's falling. I think she was joking around with the people behind her. Like, I think they were together. So I always love a good, hilarious expression when you can't quite figure out what's going on and there's some mystery. And then I made my way up those stairs to a higher vantage point, got a nice overview of that part of the resort. Snowbird is a very large ski resort, and I believe this was a small section of it. It was important to me that people were in interesting positions, and I used the burst feature on my iPhone to accomplish this. The burst capability on the iPhone is fantastic. You can essentially shoot a video and then pick what photo you want from that. And in this case, I got the three people on the bottom left-hand corner, and their legs were in interesting places. The person in front, the leg is not so much in mid-stride, but that's okay because the people behind them still works fine. And then we have all of these other people scattered about. I then, after a snack, very important, after a snack, made my way up to, I suppose you would call it, the primary part of Snowbird Resort. And at this primary part, there is a tram, or gondola, I suppose. And it's this huge car that floats through the sky on a wire. And sometimes they run it, and sometimes they don't. I pulled into the parking lot, and I noticed that they were running it. And this made me very excited in my loins. So I made my way into the building where you can find restaurants and stores. I went into one of those stores, saw a guy with a cape. Cool. I think, in general, we need more people with capes. I made my way up the stairs to the place where you could board this tram if you would like to. And I did not board it. I just took photos of it. So I found a nice vantage point and took some photos. I grabbed this photo of the red tram descending into the station. There's a red one and a blue one. Yeah, I know, it's very exciting. And one of the things I love about the tram is the cables. If we are looking at it on a low visibility day, such as this one, the cables go up into the ether and you can't see the next support tower. And it has this wonderful mystical effect to it. So I tried to work in some intriguing elements in the foreground and have the tram, and of course have the tram separated from those trees that it's about to come over. And then I captured my favorite photo of the entire excursion. I enjoy putting the best photo at either the beginning or the end, because if it's at the beginning, you're going to go, this is great. If the whole thing goes downhill from here, at least I started well. If you put it at the end, you feel happy because at the end you got something that you worked hard for and you feel quite accomplished about. In this case, we have a photo of some silhouetted men standing at the tram station, and we have the blue tram in the distance. In front of them is this window, which creates this effect as if I had shot this on film. It has these interesting smudgies on it. It almost looks like some sort of tintype film portrait type of idea. And I thought that really added an interesting aesthetic to the photo. I always love when I can do that naturally as opposed to putting some sort of effect on the thing, which I don't do. It's only interesting to me if it's a natural occurrence. It was important to me that these two silhouetted men were doing something interesting, or at least one of them. In this case, I took photos of them looking away. I took photos of one looking at the other, so the left guy on the left looking at the guy on the right. And then I took photos of both of them looking at each other, and I decided to go with the one where both of them are looking at each other, engaging with one another. Then we have the tram perfectly in the center, making its way up, and all sorts of other intriguing elements all around. And this, I enjoy what happened with this. Also, at one point in this photo walk, I ventured into a cafe and I noticed two very interesting things. One being the prices are absurd, and two being there is wonderful photography scattered about, and it inspires me to put my own photography on one of those walls one day. So what do we learn from this photo walk? Well, I think it's a good idea to always be paying attention to your weather and light conditions around you and be ready to take advantage because something serendipitous and wonderful might occur. Another thing is, if you're feeling uncreative, sometimes going out with just your phone can ignite a spark in you as it did in me. I really had a lot of fun and I'm excited to do more of these. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye.